Okay, let's. What do we have today? What do we have today? Something. It's already open. There's already something open. Huh. Look at this. Oh no. Oh no. No. Anything but that. Please. No. Fuck it. I already tortured myself. I already. You know what? I've been gone for 2 weeks, and I deserve this. I literally deserve this for leaving 2 weeks, but it was because sanity. Because I needed this. This is the reason why. Anyway, hey everyone, Marcin here, and welcome to Fanfic Friday. This pretty much the show where I torture myself while reading fanfics that are nearly insane. Like this. Like the one today, which is the reason why I needed 2 weeks of 2 weeks of sanity for this. Cause this is probably gonna take it all away. Yeah. And then most likely I'm gonna be over there probably, yeah. Probably doing something not bad or anything, but just probably something like Isaac would do. You know, from Binding of Isaac. Something like Isaac would do. Probably curl up and ball in the corner. Yeah, probably something I would do. After this fanfic is over. Yeah. Yeah. But, yeah, this is... Yeah. By the way, I forgot who your name is. The guy who freaking requests this, but you suck. You suck so much. But this fanfic is actually called Rainbow Factory. Yeah! I'm doing this now! So be lucky that I'm actually doing this. You're lucky that I'm doing this. You right there. And I saved this for 2 weeks. This right here. This right here was saved for 2 weeks. For this exact moment. The exact moment I was actually going to read this stupid fanfic. Ugh, it's gonna suck. By the way, today is March 10th, 2013. In case you guys want to know. Probably the day I'm gonna die. Yeah. I don't want to die. But this is called Rainbow Factory by Aurora Dawn. Yes, that one infamous, or probably famous as you guys know it, the Rainbow Factory as in, yeah, a horror fic. I just can tell by his face right now. I need a hug so much. I can't do this! I can't do this, please. I haven't even started yet, and I'm already not wanting to read this. Can we do something about this? Like, can we read something else? Like, something, I don't know, something less torturing? Like, seriously. I want this to involve her. Please. Fine. Fine. I'll let her be involved in this. Fine. I'll let her. Fine. I'll read this fanfic just for you guys. This is gonna suck. I already know it. Before I start, though, what I probably should have done before, a while ago, is unplug this, because, you know, it's already done. And, well, that's about it, so let's begin, I guess. All I know is that this is gonna suck. For me. It's gonna be good for you guys. Now a Rainbow's Tale isn't quite as nice as the story we knew of Sugar and Spice. There's long been rumors as to how exactly rainbows are made in Equestria. while a great amount of Pegasi ponies are employed in the Rainbow Department of the Weather Factory. Almost all of them do the low-end work. What's known is that great streams of spectra, the individual colors of the rainbow, flow through large gates and into vast vats. From there, workers carefully and equally mix the spectra into the coagulated rainbow pools that dot and run through the factory and surrounding city. Next, that mixture is pumped to the floor below, where other employees analyze it, and store it until the active weather Pegasi deployed in field. However, no one knows how an individual spectra is made. Supplies are never seen being brought in, leaving not even a clue what goes into a rainbow. Tourists, when visiting the factory, are treated to an extremely foreboding and plain wall with massive solid doors bearing entry to any pony at any time. While most of the facility's various signs and architecture is bubbly and welcoming, the Rainbow Factory's upper floor was protected by harsh imagery of potential hazards and death. The cloud wall was made not out of the clean white of the rest of the city, but of a black, quietly thundering fog. To become an employee of the Upper Rainbow Factory means sacrificing any life outside those black walls. Workers are sworn to secrecy and forbidden from leaving, and live out inside the facility itself. Those few who ever manage to make it out, not in a body bag, are twisted and disturbed, too damaged to ever bring themselves to talk about it. A lot of theories were proposed: dark magic from captured unicorns, chemicals and environmental hazards that no sane pony would ever tolerate, and even thoughts of another unknown sister of Celestia's, destined to create the spectra instead of raise the sun or moon. None of them could be farther than the truth. But a rainbow's easy once you get to know it, with the help of a magic of a Pegasus device. Come on, Orion! We're gonna be late for our final test! Scooter called to a friend of hers. She was older, now in her last year of flight school. She, like the other Pegasus in school, was terribly nervous of the final test. Those that passed were granted freedom into the world, to find their cutie marks if they haven't yet, and become working ponies. A little known, or at least little thought about fact, was what happened to the fillies that failed their test. While uncommon, one or two from every class generally didn't have it in them to perform the rigorous acts and maneuvers. Those that failed their test were looked down upon in the worst of ways, shunned and hated. Clydesdale had always bred a form of nationalism amongst its occupants. If you weren't the best, or didn't show the potential of being the greatest, you weren't allowed to be part of the glorious collective. Scootaloo moved a little to the side as Orion, a tall yet fairly skinny pony, settled next to her. He fluffed his light brown feathers and gave a worried attempt at a smile as he stared around where he sat. They were sitting in a large open waiting room overlooking the Coliseum, with all of the other graduating Pegasi. Just visible in the distance was the factory. Orion glanced at it and gulped. "What's the matter, Orion? You afraid of getting a dead-end job in the snow line?" Orion chuckled a bit, then closed his eyes and sighed. "No, it's just, I don't know. I don't think I could do this. What if I fail? What if I don't fail, but do just bad enough to be still disliked by everyone? I don't know if I can take being deported. Where do we even go anyway?" Scootaloo gave Orion a friendly punch. "No one knows you, dolt. And we're not going to fail. Everyone here is going to be fine. I know I'll at least pass." She laughed. Thanks to the tips from Rainbow Dash, I'm sure I'll be fine. Oh yeah, sure. That reassures me. That's actually just as, if not even more reassuring, than the psychopathic hate every pony here has seemed to love to spread. Quit panicking, Scaredy Wings, Lulu replied. The only one here I think might fail is that yellow pony with dark green mane. She's the one who was out sick for that month, you know. Oh yeah, Orion remembered as he craned his hand in the other pony's direction. The one who had the bad case of hoof and ring? She looks pretty confident, though. I suppose we'll see. Lulu trailed, turning to look at the factory herself. It gave her chills, but not of fear, but pride. I hope I get some cool active weather shot. Can you imagine? Everyone in Ponyville and Philadelphia was staring up at me, going, "There goes Scootaloo, such an amazing flyer!" And from Cloudsdale, there can be no doubt. She smiled in excitement, getting her attention at the moment. That'd be something, I admit. Mind you, just coming from Cloudsdale, who wouldn't be in awe? Exactly. Praise the flock. Praise the flock. Places, places, every pony. A massive buff Pegasus walked towards the entrance of the Coliseum. We're going to do this by name. The registrars are on the east side of the field. Do not, I repeat, do not fly too far west. If they lose sight of you for any reason, you'll be failed immediately. Take deep breaths. Stretch your wings one last time. The test will consist of 3 sections: weather training, agility, and finally, recovery. Clear the clouds, fly through the hoops, and then fly to the marked elevation. Close your wings for at least 3 seconds. Any less, and you will fail. But keep in mind there's no extra points for extra seconds. Finally, recover before you hit the cloud floor. Understood? Any questions? The instructor paused and carefully glanced at every single pony in the room. Everyone's eyes was completely focused on him, and none were creased with confusion. Alright. Aurora Dawn. You're up first. Clear, fly, fall, complete. Wait a second. Never mind. The yellow pony nodded and walked quickly up to the starting ramp with purpose. She stared at the watching judges, waited for a nod from all 3, and then took off with powerful force. The ramp bounced slightly from the force of the takeoff. Every pony watched as Aurora quickly reached the starting altitude, and then began a direct and purposeful attack on the positioned clouds. With expert timing and intelligent angles, the sky was soon empty of any moisture. Scootaloo and Orion watched with open mouths as they watched it first testy, hold fast inside turns, expertly shooting dead center through each and every hoop. Finally, Aurora pulled herself up to the proper altitude, hovered, and closed her wings. The group of students gasped as she started pumping down towards the clouds and counted breathlessly. 1, 2, 3. They sighed as they watched her wings open in the correct amount of time, collectively holding that relief. Suddenly, Aurora's wings whipped upwards, and the group of students flinched in horror as they all heard the loud, hollow snap, only to be suddenly replaced by the underneath piercing scream. Many, like Orion, shielded their eyes with their wings, as others like Scootaloo could only watch, terrified as the blur of yellow, green, and red plummeted into the cloud with a dull thump. Wasting no time, the instructor walked forwards again as the 3 judges simply pointed down and started shuffling papers around. Speaking loudly, as if nothing happened, he called it again. Daisy, Fields. Clear, fly, fall, complete. Scootaloo and Orion stared slack-jawed as another pony gulped and then walked towards the little path and took off. They turned back to the top of the cloud where Aurora landed and stared. As the wind blew the fragments that were thrown up from the collision away, they saw the shivering yellow body attempt to move, only to collapse with a cry. and then pretty much the same repeated names and all that. The same repeated name, which is pretty much a different name, but the same stuff. But this time it's Faraday's spots. Okay. Aurora still struggled to walk, wailing with every step. Her legs were broken. She could use it fine, but it was obvious the pain from her wing joints and the loss of her potential life was crushing her. Gulu felt Orion shuffle uneasily, tears welling in his eyes when the frown formed on his face. This time, Holiday Shine. No one coming to help her? Orion seethed through closed teeth. Gulu felt extremely sad for the yellow Pegasus, but couldn't see herself helping her. She would be failed herself and sent away, far away from Cloudsdale and any familiar place in Equestria, to a place where she and any other failed students could never stain Cloudsdale's reputation. It was a terrible shame, but Lulu couldn't fail herself. She couldn't fail her friends. She definitely couldn't fail Rainbow-Dash. Not after the care and help she'd given her Gulu's whole life. Gulu blinked the tears from her eyes, forced herself to watch the competitive students. One after another took off, successfully passed the test, and flew to the east gate to under the judges' spots in the stands. That's all Gulu focused on. Pass the test, fly to the gate, live a happy life. And this time, Orion Celestis. No. What? The instructor took a deep step back, one leg raised, left raised in the air. You can't just refuse your flight test. Get out there before you piss the judges off. No. Don't even pretend you care about my future and don't care about hers. Orion defied, unsure about himself. You say you want me to get a good life, and yet you let those that fail suffer unbearable pain. Get the fuck into that field before I fail you myself! The instructor shouted menacingly. Fine. Orion spoke sharply. Before walking to the ramp, he stared at the judges and waited for the individual nods. The second they came, he took off. However, long before the starting altitude, he turned sharply and landed gently next to Aurora. She turned and looked at him, blood running from down her forehead and sides, with tears streaming down her face. What are you doing? If you feel like me, it's out. I'd rather be exiled from a place that treats me like this than live my life where others don't embarrass. Aurora smiled. Happiness breezes replacing her sadness with blackened puppy eyes. Until she felt again intense pain flashing across her body. Orion leaned in close, under his wing to brace the opponent against himself. He stared up at the judges, beaming hate for his vision. They stared down, unaffected, and simply pointed down, before looking back towards the ramp for the next contestant. Gulu stood shocked, hardly hearing her name called. She moved numbly up the ramp, never taking her eyes off the frightened opponent and sacrificed himself to help. After a brief moment, she shook her head, recovered her thoughts, and looked to the judges. Thoughts passed through her head as she watched them all nod. Oh, Celestia, what do I do? I can't let everyone know I know down, but I'll never see Orion again. I hope he knew that risk when he did that. I'm sure he's thinking the same right now. She glanced at Orion. He wasn't looking at her. She took off, heartbroken. Instinct kicked in as the familiar rush of cool wind cooled her and blew her thoughts away. She stopped at the right altitude and then launched again. Seeing every cloud, forming a game plan. In a matter of a couple dozen seconds, the sky was clear. She did a quick loop in mid-flight. aiming at the first hoop. With a powerful flash in her wings, she held forward through the first ring, and then the second, and then the third. Expertly turning and drifting, she curved in towards the second last ring in the bottom of the field. As she descended, she caught sight of Orion and Aurora, almost at the west gate now. Orion turned his head and smiled weakly. Scooter's focus shadowed. Orion knew what he did. He cared about her. He would miss her, but then he'd never say goodbye. Scooter cranked into the bottom part of the ring, feeling falling backwards, several feet hitting the ground. Sudden, intense flash of fear. She flipped herself into her feet and began flapping her wings, letting hang off the ground. Maybe that didn't count as failure, she thought. I could still fly. It was a distraction in the field. She spun to the judges. 3 hoops. I waited down. Scooter started crying there, tears wailing up and blurring her vision. This wasn't right. This shouldn't have happened. None of it. Orion should have passed this test and cheered her on from the east gate. She shouldn't have looked at him. She should have focused on flying. There was no room for excuses. Defeated, she slowly hovered towards Orion and settled down next to him. She looked at him through her purple eyes. He looked back, offering a smile. You did a good job. Scooter dropped her head and sobbed. She had walked around Orion, lifted a wing of her own, and helped Aurora walk through the west gate. Before them stood a long, unlit hall with only a cheap sign stuck to the wall notifying test failees to proceed down the hall. They waited only briefly to gather themselves, prepare for what they will be taken, and then all stepped forward together. Let's delve deeper into rainbow philosophy, far beyond that of Clodsdale mythology. It's easy to misjudge that floating city, with its alluring decor and social psychology. Against an empty carriage at the end of the only hall were 3 imposing ponies, leaning and disinterested and bored hooves. One of them happened to look up as this sorry-looking trio stumbled out into the open. They were on the bottom edge of the Colosseum, with the vast rolling hills and plains of Equestria visible far below. Hey boss, we got some damn worthless Peggies. Pegasus? What? Pegasus. I'm guessing. I don't know, just felt weird. The first one called to an even bigger pony on the other side of the carriage. I suppose it's get to work time, is it? Cool it, hotshot. There may be more too. No, I think that was the last student to go. Scooter spoke in silence. Orion can only hang his head. It's part that breathed deeply, determined to remain as long as she could. It's just us 3. Aurora's wings. They're broken. She needs help. Ain't that just a crying shame, is it? What's it to us? All the better she don't come flying back to us no more. We may have failed our damn test, but that doesn't mean we're not worth keeping alive. Scooter shouted in a flash of rage. She was determined to hold on to as much dignity as she could. Alright, shit. Patches, doctor her up before we head out. I want any blood on them seats. Just finish that thing. Just wash that thing. Y'all the 2, in the cart. Ryan and Scooter hopped into the carriage and got as comfortable as they could in the hard seats. They tried to leave room for Aurora. As soon as a third of the large ponies finished bandaging her wings, Aurora carefully stepped into the vehicle and lay down on the bench at the back. Scooter inched closer to her, leaned down to talk as the door in the carriage slammed shut. The boss pony was outside the back, standing by the door, watching each of them. So, Scooter began quietly, trying not to speak too loud. Aurora, I'm Scooter. I'm sorry we had to meet like this. Any meeting of a friend is a welcome meeting. Aurora spoke gently, but sincerely in her eyes. We did our best. That's all we can say. That's all any of us can say. Who does it say that the city of reported isn't a good one anyway? The thought struck Scootaloo as she considered it. No one was ever told about where the Pegasi were brought. Most ponies are considered to be some odd land, like where the zebras hailed from. That made Scootaloo realize something even more profound. Hey, if we if we were taking to where's the course from, then there's got to be a way to get back. It's not as if we're banned from Equestria. Fluttershy, an old friend of mine, she's a Pegasus who lives in Ponyville. She never passed flight school. She never took her test. They never taken her away. Exactly, Aurora agreed with a nod. Orion overheard and offered his thoughts. I think the reason we're sent far away is because no pony from Quanto ever wants to admit that someone who failed flight school could come from the city. What a fucking horrible place. Now that I think of it, I never want to go back. Maybe that's why no Pegasus ever comes back. They just don't like Cloudsdale. You goddamn weapons ponies could hardly call themselves Pegasus. The boss broke from the door. He was swaying ever so slightly as the carriage was lifted and moved into the location. Useless failures is what you are. No pony comes back from exile, regardless of reason. Can't even pass a goddamn test. You three make me sick. Julia jumped up from her seat, lifted herself into the air with her wings, and dove like first at the boss. You shut the hell up about us! You have no right to treat others like this! Boss raised a hoof and backhanded Scootaloo out of the air onto the floor. I can treat you however I want. You hardly classify as ponies to Cloudsdale. Or any Equestria for that matter. Now sit the fuck down and shut up until you get your destination. Where are we being taken anyway? Not like we can tell anyone now. I'm sure as the deliverers, you guys would know. Orion cautiously reasoned. Hell if I know. We hand this carriage off to ponies and suits. And we get a bag full of coins to keep quiet about the whole thing. It's how it's always been for 1,000 years. The three flyers huddled together again, scared of the unknown. They keep quiet as they waded through the unbearable trip, all lost in their own thoughts. Friends, family, loved ones, and pets. We'll never see them again. And some would never find out why. An hour passed, and then another. Finally, the uncomfortable quest was broken by a sudden lurch as the carriage stopped in its flight. Ah, Boss smiled. There's my stop. Your ponies play nice now. Have fun and wherever the hell you're sent to. Carriage shuffled over and the boss hopped out with a gust of cold wind. It was night outside now, with hardly any light to see at all. Scootaloo stared outside and noticed another figure staring in. It was dressed in a black suit. Its tail dyed in the natural black. It never occurred in nature. Its face was covered by a dark, loose-fitting mask, concealing its mane. All that was visible were rose-colored eyes, staring indifferently at the three ponies inside. They stopped on Scootaloo momentarily, unrecognizing, but she stared back. A second paw passed. The dark pony slammed the door shut, and the carriage took off once again. At least we can talk now, Flora whispered in the dark. But they had nothing to talk about. With all great things come a great responsibility. That of Cloudsdale being weather stability. The carriage finally shuddered to a stop. The three desolate foals blinked their eyes awake, having all resolved to conserve energy for whatever came next. With a loud scraping noise, the doors shook and swung wide open. Several more ponies, obscured by masks and suits, were moving around the area. Scootaloo blinked against the light from what she was seeing. They were in a cloud building. As her eyes adjusted, she noticed more details. Several of the blackened ponies were rushing around, some holding clipboards, some carrying briefcases, and other important-looking items on their backs. The complex was full of machinery and signs. Pipes ran along the ceiling, and a loud whir ran in the background, occasionally joined with other industrial sounds, such as crashes and alarms. Scootaloo gasped. This place, the architecture, it's all so familiar. I think we're in the weather factory. Orion frowned. That can't be right. We were traveling for way too long. We've got to be far away from Equestria now, not to mention the city. Actually, Scootaloo may be right. Aurora mused. I noticed it was maybe the same amount of time from when we left the Coliseum to the place the carriage drivers swapped. That was from the swap to place the year. But I don't know. I'm confused. Maybe that's just a coincidence. Welcome, mules, a large and powerful voice commanded. Several of the suited ponies moved to make way for the deep, dark red Pegasus, dressed in a rifle lava coat. You degenerates are probably wondering where exactly you are, stupid fillies. You're in Cloudsdale, the Rainbow Factory facility, to be correct. Allow me to show you around. What's going on here? Do you expect us to use us as slaves? Because I'd rather be deported, thanks. Scootaloo yelled. Oh, Orion and Orion got off their seats and stood behind Scootaloo, nodding in agreement. Like you failures have a choice. You'll be here for the rest of your lives. Oh, I'm sorry. Where are my manners? I am Dr. Atmosphere. My degree is the medical one. I shall reassure you, in case you're picturing some dreadful surgery going on behind the scenes. Strange how so many worthless Pegasus get the idea. No, my degree is in engineering. I'm one of the 4 cults in this facility. I'm sure you all had a tour of the lower factory, no? The 3 ponies nodded slowly, unsure of what's going on. Excellent. Who can tell me where the tour begins? Orion spoke up first. Where the spectre comes from upstairs and then is mixed? Very good. What a pity you're utterly useless to the flock. But you could have been a smart one. Dr. Atmosphere smiled sadistically and patted Orion on the head. But today we're on the upper floor. Please, follow me, and don't get too far behind, or one of my helpers will be forced to encourage you. With that, he winked at the suited ponies. With nods, 3 of them at the rear leaned forwards and jabbed each of the Pegasus with tasers, shocking them to the ground. Dr. Atmosphere whined in laughter as they all yelped and fell, and continued to a soft chuckle as they all stood up again. Scootaloo blinked more tears from her eyes and shook herself again, trying to lose the tingling in her nerves. She turned and quickly looked at each of the suited ponies, catching each of them in the eye when she could. None of them were the rose-eyed pony from the carriage. Begrudgingly, she walked to behind the red engineer. You simply must be careful in this department, Dr. Atmosphere began in a tone not unlike the many tour guides Lois loved. There's plenty of nooks and crannies in the vents, and vats one could fall into. But one must be careful not to hurt themselves. After all, you're all helpless as it is, any more so, and even we couldn't use you. He glanced behind himself maliciously as the 3 followed around in insult. They were walking down a series of halls with vibrating machines and assembly lines along the way. Occasionally ducking under low-hanging wires and carefully stepping over steaming pipes. As they walked through, the building became colder and colder. All 3 were watching, sensing, looking for any way out. They couldn't see any. Now let me tell you a story. Now, let me tell a story. Okay, no. Cloudsdale is where the weather is made. Without us, the rest of Equestria would starve, freeze, drown, and generally be a not very happy place. That gives us a special honor, one that can be tainted by, incompetent fools like you. How could the world look up and trust if Pegasite like you were flying around wearing the Cloudsdale name? No, no. We needed to do something with all of you. And then we got a delicious idea. One day, over 1,000 years ago, there were some smart ponies back then, I'll say. You don't find too many of them these days, but I digress. Ha ha ha. Here, now through these doors, quickly now, before more encouragement is supplied. Dr. Atmosphere opened a heavy-looking door in a cramped corridor and offered a hoof inside. Scooby-Doo stared up at him. He glanced at the suited pony. Scooby-Doo and the others walked inside. As he laughed again. Enjoy the rest of your pitiful life. And with that, he slammed the door closed. They all turned and looked at the big room as they had been led to. It was fairly open and empty, almost like a theater room. One end of the room there were 6 square vats, each one nearly filled with individual spectra. Above them was a particular-looking machine from a central shack. 6 hoses broke off and lay above each of the individual vats. At the top of the stack was a single opening, red with rust, despite the rest of the machine to be shiny and clean. Even further above that was a fairly complex-looking object, with its chains and gears hanging off of beams and pipes loosely, running even higher than the whole machine was length of scaffolding. There were doors on either side leading out of a room. Down on the floor was a small collection of defeated, crying ponies sat, chatting quietly. Those suits, there, those are from the other flight school across town, Orion informed, sounding shocked. And those other ponies sitting over there, see? I remember a trip we went on once with Levitating Acres Private School. I remember them from that trip. So, this is where all the failures go? Not deported, but forced to work forever? Ryan sobs quietly, changing for helping someone. He had doomed himself and his good friend to a life of servitude. Scrooge reached a reassuring wing over and lifted his chin. She smiled at him, understanding his depression. At least we don't have to go through it alone, she cooed softly. Suddenly, there was a commotion of the group of ex-students. One pony from an unidentified school took off, headed towards one of the doors into the scaffolding. Immediately, 2 suited ponies launched at record speed. Both clipped to fly away with their tasers. The pony spasmed in air and then dropped like a stone, with an audible crack as he landed, and a violent burst of twitching. All the other ponies walked back, staring horrified at their friend. They watched, hopefully for a long time. He didn't move. Some cried softly. Most others turned away, too far confused to feel any more emotions. I guess that's not enough, Aurora quietly said, to no one in particular. I guess you can't fly right now anyway. Orion questioned. That medic guy, Patches or whatever he was called, he popped my limbs back to the joints and bandaged up with my skin tore. I won't be winning any races, but I can fly again. They slowly walked forward and joined the group of ponies, looking at each other with understanding sorrow. I sprung and sent you in a mules, one of the suited ponies shouted. There was a previous display. No one channeled that order and stared at the scaffolding just as one of the doors opened. How, you ask, are they up to the task? To which the answer is in a simple facility. A few official-looking Pegasi walked in on the scaffolding. Two turned to look down at the group with disgust. One of them stood onto a small podium set up in the center and began speaking loudly and clearly. By now, you're all clearly determined that you're not going into exile. There is no deportation. There never was. You are in the factory, and you will never leave the factory. And while you may be called useless, that's not entirely true. You're worthless to the flock as a pony, but you still have a purpose. Purpose to all the ponies in this land. Far and wide. You get to help make rainbows. Beautiful, magical rainbows. Doesn't that excite you? The mysterious announcer grinned ecstatically, while taking in all the disgusted looks from every fold of full-blown. I thought so. it is just such an honor, you know. It leaves every pony entrusted with the task speechless too. Now, do I have any volunteers? Again, every pony below glared with hate. One glared pony, one brave pony, a light pink one from Levitating Acres, walked forward a few steps and yelled, "How could you ever get away with this? How could Celestia or even Luna know about this and tolerate it? Slavery! It's torture!" I think you'll find it's more than that. The second official pony walked out in the shadows and up to the podium. The pony was in a suit and masked. The first pony walked off the podium and allowed the second to talk. Scooby-Doo noticed that it was the rose-eyed pony from before. She watched more intently now. The voice was familiar. 1,000 years ago, when Celestia banished Luna from the Equestria and sent her to the moon, she was charged with 3 tasks. She originally was in charge of raising the sun and showing the land with rainbows. But with the moon being an additional task, she had to hand down the responsibility of rainbows. Celestia entrusted it in Pegasi and Cloudsdale to make the rainbows for her from then on. For the first dozen years, we were given powerful unicorns to help create spectra. Spectra is pure pigment, pure color. Everything's full of spectra, but you can't just harvest it. You could never separate color from an object, so it was made artificially with magic. The masked pony never took her eyes off the great pink one. That is, until our top engineers made a breakthrough. They discovered an ingenious way to extract pigment. And it was so beautiful, even a simple machine could do it. But it couldn't be done with just anything. The conditions had to be right. What did those horrible ponies do? The pink Pegasus screamed, showing anger by the minute. The mysterious pony ripped off her mask, but unveiling more than her rose eyes. Her skin was of light cyan, and her mane was a gorgeous rainbow. Several of the boys gasped. Scooter's knees weakened as I hit her. It was Rainbow Dash. Scooter's thoughts raced through her mind, and the room started spinning. It couldn't be. An evil twin, maybe? Perhaps some neglected sister? Rainbow Dash couldn't be this evil. She was her friend, her mentor, her only family. Even if not by blood, but how? How? How was all she could think? It had to be live ponies. Only in ponies where magic and spectra ran freely together. Monash moved her red head back and laughed dramatically. Only then could the spectra be separated. And it was such a beautiful idea. Such a wonderfully horrible idea. It worked so well. We could create exponentially more rainbows of better quality and rich spectra. And it finally gave us a way to prevent Cloudsdale from being tainted by all those horrible Pegasus that couldn't fly. Lulu couldn't take it. All the other ponies were quick swimming, their disgust and fear, running screaming for when they came in, begging off the sweet ponies surrounded them and herding them back into the center of the floor. Scooter couldn't take it anymore. I thought you loved me! she wailed, cutting Ringledash's laughter short. Huh? She turned and honestly aimed the punch at his chest. I thought you loved me! How could you ever do this to me? I thought you cared for me after all the help, all my life. You treated me like a little sister. And I treated you like my big sister. You were my little big sister to me. You were the only family I ever had, and you knew it! Tears were running down her face now, stirring her vision again. Her throat hurt from the crying and shouting. She couldn't stop. After everything, you were just gonna let me die? She went so hard for you. She stared at the floor. For a moment, everyone was silent. Miss Goodwin looked up slowly, and while she couldn't see it, for the straight sadness in her eyes, she looked straight at Ringledash, straight to those rosy eyes, past them, and deep into Ringledash herself. I thought you loved me. Ringledash returned the look. Her eyes revealed no emotion, no love, no care, only apathy. Slowly, however, they glared at Scootaloo. Pure, seething hate erupted from Ringledash's mouth. She returned in return. I did love you! I tried so hard for you. I taught you everything I knew, and hoped you would pass your test. You had it in you, kid. I knew what they did there. Here, ever since I performed that on Rainbow, they approached me. They wanted to find more ways to make spectrum. I thought that if I was capable of making Rainbow, I could help them make its components. Oh, they couldn't. But I learned a lot about this place. And the manager here, you know. I worked my way up, in secret, pretending to only be civil weather patrol. How do you think I could afford the master house over Paleyville? How do you? She trailed, shaking her head, remembering her anger suddenly. I tried, alright. It's up to you to save yourself. You didn't just fail yourself. You didn't just fail Clydesdale. You failed me. You failed me. And that's the worst thing you could have done. You're not just dead to Clydesdale now. You're dead to me. The room tilted as Scootaloo tried to comprehend what she was told. Her mind broke, and she was totally unable to focus on anything. She stumbled slightly, till Orion held her open a wing. She clung to it for stability. Ringledash noticed this, and pointed and yelled in more fury. You can't have happiness! You ruined me! Now ruin you! Workers! The brown one there! Him first! No! Orion all jumped. Suited ponies cornered Orion, pushing the other two to the side. He tried to leap out of the way to run, but one of the stallions spun around and kicked at him. The hoop connected to his shoulder. Orion collapsed with a shout. Get back! Shoots yelled at Orion Scootaloo as they dragged the whimpering Orion to the front of the room. The giant machine in the back started humming into life, and the sound hit chains lifted off the top towards the floor. Everyone noticed they were in shackles now. When the suits collapsed, Orion's arm into them. Braving and look up, he turned to Scootaloo. Don't worry, Scoots. I love you. Goodbye. Goodbye, Orion. Scootaloo gasped. I love you too. With that, the chains pulled tight and lifted the brown Pegasus all the way up to the gears. The chains grew taut and stretched each of Orion's limbs straight up and down. We find the machine works better if the ribs are broken. Ringledash explained apathetically. As the chain spun around in opposite directions, twisting Orion. The screams almost covered the echoing pops and shattering noises. One or two jagged bones tore through his side, and his yells faded to a slow, quiet rattle of breath. The chains untwisted and the shackles opened, dropping the shattered pony into a single opening. With horror, Scootaloo watched, her brain overcome with what was happening, detached from all emotion. She noticed that the top of the machine wasn't rusty. It was blood. Blood, just like what was being tossed up from that mangled remains of Orion. The rest of his body was swallowed into the great machine, finishing with one lone hoof directed straight up, and then nothing was left. As the oceans over the green and red vats, a spectrum started spewing their brilliant colors. Gugu's vision started to fade. And the last thing she noticed was Aurora's concern. Broken's voice saying her name screwed up to the side. Okay. Do I have to say no? Do I have to? Fine. In the Rainbow Factory, where your fears and horrors come true. In the Rainbow Factory, where not a single soul gets through. I can't believe I just sang that. I can't believe that happened. Get up. Get up now. Hurry, Scooter. Wake up. Wake up. Scooter shook her head, briefly wondering where she was and what was happening. In a flash, it all came back. She jumped into her feet. Aurora was shaking her, right, encasing her face. Suits were starting to approach the two now, tasers and shackles up and ready. Scooter, they're coming for us. What do we do? Scooter looked for an opening. All the doors were blocked except for one. On the scaffolding, the suited ponies were slowly approaching, not rushing in order to prevent the village from freaking out. Fear was their tool. Scooter spun around, looking for an exit. There was only one, she realized. I have a plan, she whispered to Aurora. What's that? Clear. Fly. Fall. Complete. Aurora nodded in understanding. Her eyes widened. She repeated, louder now, so that other lighted doors up come near. Clear. Fly. Fall. Complete. Got it? 1. Scooby started counting. 2. Silver squeaked as she backed into school. The seats were mere feet away now. 3! Collector's shout reverberated around the room as every filly that could actually fly took off. The suited ponies gasped and fell back, unsure where to go. There was too much confusion. A few of the faster thinking ones took off as well. Tasers at the ready, aiming at the closest pegs they could take. Step 1! Lulu screamed. Clear! Under command, the failures started targeting the ponies in droves. Hooves connected with the head. While some of the students fell lifeless to the floor, the majority of casualties were the suited ponies. Scootaloo and Aurora landed on the scaffolding right by the door and reached opening it. It was locked. Oh God, what do we do now? Aurora cried. We're still unclear, she shouted, turning around and bucking the door. Aurora followed her, focusing the brunt of her blows on the part of the wall where the latch would be. Rebdash on the other side of the scaffolding recovered from her initial shock of rebellion. Noticed Gilly pounding on the door. Kill her! She screamed at the unimportant looking ponies. Kill her! And she started to gallop towards the filly, forgetting her wings momentarily. Gilly closed her eyes, pounding harder and harder on the door. Started to creak and splinter. Any second now, she thought Rebdash would get here. It's over. I'm doomed. She would have cried. There would be no tears left, but nothing came. The door started to split from its frame now. Leaning inward, it wouldn't be long until it was open. Opened her up, clenched eyes, peeking out and felt from all the remaining ponies were there, pressing together, holding the enraged blue Pegasus and her crony's back. They wouldn't last long, however. Even as Scootaloo watched, twitching and yipping ponies were falling to the floor below, some even landing in the great maw of the spectrum machine. The pink pony from Levitating Acres was there. She turned to Scootaloo and Aurora just as the door blew back to the hall behind. Fly! The pink pony demanded in her voice. She opened her mouth to speak again when she was cut short as the pile of Pegasus blew apart. Remember that standing in range in the opening. She was on the two back hooves. front two rolling in the air. Smoke gashed down her side, leaked red, and the multicolored mane was torn in a patch. The unearthly hollow passed through lips, and her rose eyes drained of any sanity into his left. Clara! Scooby pleaded as if she spun around. We got to fly if we're gonna live. I can't. This is too much. I haven't healed. Laura looked at Scooby with wide open eyes. You go, Scooby. Tell everyone what happens here. Let them know. She glanced back at the wall. The students, almost bare now, Rainbow Dash bloodlust tore them to pieces. Her coat was now glistering crimson, almost dripping as she ignored the need for live ponies. There would be more Cloudsdale than could take us. There'd be more. Cloudsdale could take a small shortage of rainbows. In another few months, there'd be even more classes, more failures. But for now, all she knew was that Scooby had to die, violently if possible. Decades of working in the Rainbow Factory had fractured her. She was the only one allowed out in public, and keeping the horrible secret with her since childhood had only made physical problems, psychological problems that no amount of therapy could cure. Scooby-Doo was her last link to insanity, and her failure had deleted that. There was no logic in her mind anymore, no care, no capacity for passion, only hate. Pure, concentrated, evil hatred filled and gap her love for Scooby had once occupied. Rainbow Dash was no more. Only this monster remained. I heard you knew you, Laura. Scooby coughed with no vague desire. I'm sorry I never knew you until all this. I'm sorry we had to meet like this. I'm sorry we have to part like this. She found more tears. Any meeting of a friend is a welcome meeting. Or reassured Scooby. Now you heard the other pony. Fly, Scooby. Fly. Goodbye. Goodbye, Aurora. With that, Scooby levitated and spun around to the unknown's eyes one last time and launched down the cramped corridor. She had no idea where she was going, but any chance of freedom was one she had to take. Aurora blinked a couple times, standing in front of the door. Rainbow Dash with at least one obstacle in the way of Scooby. The blue pony tossed the last of the other students over the scaffolding and slowly walked towards Aurora. How cute. You'd think that you, a useless broken pile of manure, could possibly stand in my way? You really make me laugh. None of you can compete with the awesome power I have. Love can overcome all the evil in this world. Aurora straightened herself in rebellion as Rainbow Dash stopped in front of her. Aurora stayed in front of Dash, barring her entry down the corridor beyond. Well then, bitch, let's see if love will overcome this one. With that, Rainbow Dash grabbed one of Aurora's bandaged wings and pulled, tearing it off of her completely. Aurora collapsed onto her knees, grinding her teeth in horrible pain. But she didn't scream. She wouldn't give in to Rainbow Dash. Rainbow grabbed her other wing and dragged her, kicking and moaning, down to the center of the scaffold. She lifted Aurora up by the wing, laughing quietly to herself as she took the look of intense agony appeared in Aurora's face. Rainbow Dash took to the air, bringing the squirming yellow wing pony with her over top of the machine. With a squeak of evil laughter, she jerked the wing in her hoof. It too disconnected from the now convulsing Pegasus, and Aurora fell. She landed head first. The door on the scaffolding closed with a gust of wind, just as the machine began pumping out the brightest greens and yellows she had ever produced. There was no one around to see it. Scooby glanced backwards momentarily, her heart pounding. The noise of the constant thump, thump, thump drowned out any other sound in her head. Her ears throbbing along with it. The corridor was just like the one that led to the theater room, cramped with dozens of obstacles jutting out at intervals. Straight behind her, dark baby 500 meters now. The bloody mare that used to be Rainbow Dash was cruising along herself. Both Pegasi were completely straight, hooves forward, wings beating an almost impossible count. One trying to escape, the other to capture. She looked forward again, focusing on the lion ahead of her. That's all that matters, she thought. What's ahead of me? There's no changing what's behind me. Ignore it. Focus. For the second time in many days, a flood of instinct overtook Scooter. Caused by the terror she felt in her body, the sorrow that had surrounded her, and the evil behind her. Her worries melted away, and the thought of flying encased her very being. Down under wires and pipes, she ducked up and around various workers whose complaints and shouts were ignored, only to be repeated momentarily as the raging pony behind collided with them. Her body doing all the flying. Scooter's thoughts turned to escape opportunities. She whipped around sharp corners at impossible speeds, zipped up and down countless set of stairs, trying to shake her murderous tail, but to no avail. She contemplated every nook and cranny she passed, briefly considering hiding. She struck the idea down. Insane as Rainbow Dash may be, she was still too smart to overlook any possible spots Scootaloo may be. I just found a picture, and I'm not going to say anything. But there, ahead of her, Scootaloo thought she found a solution. A garbage bin of some kind, sticking out from a wall, down to the floor below. Momentarily, she gave thought to where it might lead. Whether out of the factory or to some incinerator, she couldn't tell, but it was probably worth the risk. She snuck one last glance behind her, to church with one stable mare. It was far away enough. Rainbow Dash was paying no attention to any hazards. She fought her prey, tearing through electrical wires and ricocheting off heated pipes, going through any obstacle rather than around it to save time. But the collisions had slowed her down enough to give Scootaloo a chance. She slammed to the sudden halt over a vent, hoping for her life. Fall, she smuttered, closing her eyes and her wings, resisting the urge to stop flapping immediately. She counted silently to herself and shadows rushed past her, closed eyes, hoping for the best of where the vent leads. 1, 2, 3. She opened her eyes and her wings. She looked up, hovering. Rainbow Dash was up above, looking down into the vent. Her eyes were buggy and twitchy. Her hooves pounded on the edge of the vent. She was too large to follow, to feel it from having barely made it in herself. Then the anger in her face vanished, only to be replaced by a malicious grin. She started laughing again, the crackle echoing down the vent, reverberating in Scootaloo's mind. You moron! You never did have a good sense of direction. These tears laughed in the end. Scootaloo finally looked down, getting her bearings. Oh no. She squealed. She was in the theater room again. Only by now, it was full of suited ponies circling her in her massive face, seeming to be grinning at her as Rainbow Dash shouted orders down the vent. Don't let her die! I must do it! Subdue her! Catch her! She whined in glorious victory as the suit shocked Scootaloo with a taser and her body began to fall from the air. She caught her and brought her to the floor. Scootaloo blacked out momentarily as electricity passed through her. She came to a lying on the cold, cloth floor, metal shackles preventing her from moving. She struggled to get free. She could hardly shake. The chains lifted her slightly, bringing her small body eye to eye with a Pegasus in front of her. The pony was a deep blood-red, blistering in the artificial light of the factory. Her mane had small spots of glorious colors of the rainbow, but mostly the same red color as her coat of fur. Chunks of skin were missing from the small spots, and her hair was ripped in some places. Bald patches of skin in others. The only clue Scootaloo had as to who this used to be were the rose iris focused on her. Any final words you miserable worth this horror of a fool? Good brother, chin high, still demanding even the most tiniest fraction of dignity. You have beautiful eyes, soft but clearly. That picture. Oh my god. And you want to know what else is it? That's the end. I don't even know what to say anymore. I don't know. Just, I'm gonna be probably hugging her for a while. A long while. Like, why did you do? Hmm. Hmm. I think it's a little bendable. That's cool. But yeah. So the guy that requested it, fuck you. Just gonna say that right now. Fuck you, Mr. Guy who requested it. You're an asshole. If you like my stories, please consider donating. To the guy that made this, fuck you as well. Because I'm not donating. Fuck that. No, I'm not donating. No. You're an asshole for making this story. But yeah, like something I've actually wanted to know before. The whole thing it said Aurora Dawn. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, Aurora Dawn. The creator of the story is in this. The author of the fanfic is actually in this fanfic. Is in this. The creator of the fanfic is in this. And she was pretty much like the second one of the group to die. Poor Scooter, holy shit. And pretty much the only reason why the guy requested it is just so I could dislike Rainbow Dash. It's like, really? I mean, after Cupcakes, I didn't actually dislike Pinkie Pie. I just disliked Cupcakes. But that doesn't mean that I'm gonna dislike anything off of this. No. I mean, I tolerate Pinkie Pie. I mean, she's random. Oh well, whatever. You can't really do anything about that. For Rainbow, however, she's cool. And this is just a fanfic, so I mean, it's not like it could change anything of my likings for her and the show. I mean, this is just a fucking fanfic. This is a fan-made fiction, a fan-made story. This, on the other hand, the show is completely different, where they actually created her. So there's definitely a complete difference between liking someone because of a fanfic and liking someone because of a show. There's complete difference between liking a character because of a show or liking the same character because of a fanfic. There's complete difference. And you can't really hate someone because you can't really hate a character that you used to love in a show because of a fanfic. You can't really do that because that's not really their personality. Because that's not exactly their personality in that. Because it cannot. Because sometimes it's not their personality. Sometimes it's completely different than that. I mean, I can understand Pinkie Pie being insane. I mean, that's how it was like when during the party for one, like where she got insane because like the ponies wouldn't invite her or something. She thought that, but that's completely different. That's just completely different. I mean, she thought she lost her friends. I mean, Rainbow being this insane, that doesn't mean anything. There's no reason for that. So there's no reason to have a changed personality like that. I don't know, just me thinking that. So sorry for being gone for a week, like I said, being gone for like a week or two, just because, yeah. And, yeah. And tomorrow I'll probably be announcing pretty much why I have been gone for a week while I'm making videos and all that. Gone from a week from making videos. I'll probably be explaining that as well. But yeah, this has been Rainbow Factory by Aurora Dawn. Request guy, fuck you. Author, fuck you as well, but fuck you more. What else do I have to say? Do I have to say anything about anything else? I'll be getting back to more fanfics requests. Like if you like the video, if you enjoy it, if you enjoy my torture, and if you guys want to request another fanfic, go ahead. I think I only have like 2 more fanfic requests left, and I'm done with my and I'll be empty of fanfic requests. So yeah, I think I only have 2, and that's it. But yeah, like if you enjoy this, and request fanfic in the comments if you want to, or if you have any. And I've been Martin here, and see you guys in the next time. And I'll be probably going over there, curling up in a ball and probably going insane. So yeah, I'm pretty glad I actually got that, 2 weeks of insanity. Yeah, 2 weeks of insanity. So yeah, over there, me, ball, yeah. Me, ball, insanity, yeah. That's gonna happen. So that's probably gonna happen after this video. So, Martin here, see you guys next time.